Hey, hello, hola, ahoy everyone. It's a pleasure to greet you here at .vvm Virtual Conference. I'm Daniel Gomez from the Latin America region. And on this special occasion, I come to present the .vvm in action segment to learn about how to work with machine learning projects with .vvm in ml.net. So we can get started. In this session, we will start talking about ecosystems ml.net for the creation of projects with ml.net and then learn how to create machine learning projects in .vvm. With this overview, we are going to see two demos of machine learning projects with .vvm and ml.net. Finally, as extra bonus, we will learn how to deploy our projects with .vvm in Azure. In short, we will talking about artificial intelligence, the development of modern web applications with .vvm, and also about cloud computing. With that said, let's get started. Okay, .NET is an application development framework created by Microsoft. It allows you to make applications of all of kinds. The innovation behind .NET is to integrate all Microsoft development tools, libraries, languages, technologies, purposes into the same framework, which is able to get where the developer or the company needs. In .NET, we can create applications, whether desktop, web, cloud solutions, mobile applications too, video games, Internet of Things, and also artificial intelligence solutions. In this case, we will talk about web projects focused on artificial intelligence solutions. For artificial intelligence projects in .NET, we can find ml.net. This is a framework that allows you to work with machine learning projects with different possible scenarios and take the advantage of all of power of .NET to integrate them into other projects such as .vvm. So in .NET, .NET is an open source ecosystem, so ml.net is open source too. ml.net can run anywhere, either on-premises environments, that is in private cloud, for example, or also in public clouds such as Azure, on any operating systems. We can find multiple of scenarios to apply ml.net solutions. For example, if we consider some topics or areas, for example, for classification solutions, we can do sentiments analysis, categorizing emails as spam or not spam, classify low documents. This is an example. For example, in the other hand, we can find regressions field, for example, to price prediction, predict sales of product based on advertising budget. In other case, for example, forecastings to predict the future sales based on past sales, predictive maintenance, and weather forecasting, for example. In other way, we can find, for example, anomalous detections to identify potentially fraudulent transactions, detecting network instructions, and also ranking to search results. In other hand, for example, clustering for customer segmentations, and also recommendations, for example, to recommend products to our clients in our websites, for example. This is a few things we can do with ml.net. Now, how to work with machine learning in ml.net? As a first thing we need to do is prepare our data through a dataset, for then build and train our model to generate that. Finally, we can run our model to prove it in a real scenarios. In this way, as a first case, we need to create our model in ML.NET, and then we can have the model consummation, for example, with .vvm, creating a web page to consume our model. In ML.NET, we can have or find 3 ways to use ML.NET. For example, in first point, we can use ML.NET API to generate a service and consume our model. In another way, in a second way, we can find ML.NET. This is the most easy way because here we can have a model builder in Visual Studio with user interface to create our model. And in the other hand, we can also find the ML.NET in the CLI command line interface to generate out models and then consume this model. So in this case, with .vvm web applications on ML.NET, we can use, for example, in a first instance, ML.NET model builder into Visual Studio to create our model and then consume this model with .vvm solution to represent, the data and all of this. And this is that we can do now. This is time to demo section. In this case, we have 2 demos to present here at .vvm virtual conference to see how to work ML.NET with .vvm. So here we go. Okay, here in Visual Studio, we go to create a new project. In this case, we can go to create a .vvm web application, this type of project. For example, I can write here ml.vvm, project name and solution 2, and create our project. Here we can go to the wizard of .vvm to create, for example, or add some features, for example, scripts or style resources, to specify the .NET version. In this case, we put in this way. Now create our project. The project is here. Previously, to work with ML.NET, we need, for example, in this case, let me open the Visual Studio installer. In our Visual Studio, in our version, we need to have the section multi-platform development of .NET in English. We will appear in this way, but we need this workload to work with ML.NET because we need this component, ML.NET model builder, to create our model, and only this that is we need. So in this case, in our .vvm project, we need to create the model as well. In this case, to do that, we can go to the principal project and click right and go to the section add and go to the machine learning option and add a new item. So in this case, I'm going to write sentiment analysis. Okay. Immediately, we can see the model builder here in Visual Studio. In that, we need to specify an scenario to work or to create our machine learning model. In this case, our first demo is about text classification. For example, to have categories, to have, for example, in our text is a positive way or a negative way. So we can select this text classification. Now we can specify our training environment. That is to select our processor, memory to work and train our machine learning model. For example, in other scenarios, we can use, for example, the compute on Azure or other clouds. In this case, this specifically a scenario allows you to work in a local computer. Then we need to specify our dataset to create our model. In this case, we have two options. For example, to specify a CSV file or a database on SQL Server. In this case, I have an example on a file text file. Let me show you. In this case, I have this dataset to comments of Amazon products. For example, in this way. Good case, excellent value. For example, 1 is to a positive comment. In other case, for example, what a waste of money and time. This is a negative comment, for example. And this dataset is that. Positive and negative comments, 0 or 1. And we can use that to train our model. When we upload our data on Visual Studio, we can see in this case the data preview. Okay, this is a preview, for example, code 0 and code 1. Code 0 is the text, for example, and code 1 is the 0 or 1 sentiments in this case. And also we need to specify what column we need to predict, what label. In this case, in the future scenarios, we need, for example, to write a text and predict if it's 0 or if 1. In this case, it is about the code 1. And now we can go to the next step. In this way, we can set up our time to train our model. If we can put more time, we can get a best model. So in this case, for example, I'm going to put 120 seconds and start the training. Okay, our training is complete. And for example, in this way, we can see the process of training to create our model. But this is done. And in this case, for example, our next step is to evaluate our model to see that everything is working in a correct way. So we can do that. In this case, for example, we can write our example to prove our model. For example, we can write we love.vvm, for example, and predict our result. Okay, this is a positive comment, one result, with 95% of these results. So in this case, we can write another scenario. In this case, for example, to negative, we can write we hate that. This is only an example. That predict. Okay, 0 negative comments with 89% of probabilities. So next we can generate project templates, for example, to consume the consummation of this module, for example, creating a console app or a web API 2. In this case, we don't have to do that. The intention in our case is, for example, to create a web page in .vvm to use this model. So this is all. Next step, and this is all. Because in this case, in our .vvm project, we can find in this section, for example, sentiment analysis, section that code generated to work with our machine learning project. For example, in this case, the most important thing is this class, sentiment analysis, the consummation part. In this case, we need a model input. The model input in this case has a code 0, that is the text, and the result is, for example, the code 1, the predict result, in this case 0 or 1. And also the model output, we also have the prediction, that is 0 or 1, and the score, that is the percent of probabilities of this prediction. The only we need to do is call this method and send the input, the model input, and we can have the model output as a result. And this is that we need to do in this case. For example, in our project, in default, let me show you, we can see the hello world typically on .vvm. So we can edit that to consume our machine learning model. And I'm going to this section. Here, we can write some attributes to prepare our model input. For example, public string input text, the text from the user. Also, other attribute, in this case, to show the result from the prediction process, and also to have the score, the probabilities of our production. Okay. And also we can define a method to call a process to predict the input text. Okay, in our method, predict method, we can define our input model to specify our input text and then predict our input text to generate the output model. In this way, we can define a var called input, that is new sentiment analysis dot model input in this case. And here we can define the call 0 with the input text. Input text. Okay, then we can specify the prediction and assign that to our output bar in this case. For example, output, that is sentiment analysis dot predict, and we need to send, in this case, the input, the model input, and that is, we have the output results in this variable. Now, the only need that we need to do that is to prepare our result. For example, if our output prediction is 0, that is a negative comment. So here we can put the result this result to show, for example, in the .vvm web page, put that is negative. Else, that the result is positive. Is positive. Okay, the only other thing that we can do is to, only thing we need to do is present the probabilities of this prediction. So in this case, for example, we can specify through the score, and for example, show 99.95% of probabilities that is positive. And so in this case, for example, we can use a decimal round and put up the probabilities. Output in this case, the referencing is score, and depending of the result, negative or positive, through the prediction, we can specify here this result. And now we can multiply this for 100, and then put that is only 2 decimals. Okay, now let me cast this at explicit cast. Okay, and point and comma. Okay, that is, in this way we call to our model to have an input text and then predict this text, and also have an output to the result of our prediction, and in this case, for example, prepare the results, negative or positive in this case. Now we can put here and use some .vvm controls to receive the data and process it. Okay, let me delete this, only this. I will write here ml.net on .vvm or with .vvm demo. Here we can put a .vvm control about .textbox, and in this way receive our input data. In this case is text. The value is input text. And we can also put, for example, a placeholder saying write your text. Okay? And also we can put a button down here and with other .vvm control, button, and here a call to the click event, and in this case I specify a command, and here specified our predict method. Okay, and also here we can show the results of our prediction. In this case, for example, with the value of result and also with our score. Value result and also the value of score. In this way. Sorry. Yeah, in this way. Okay. This is our simple web applications, a little demo. Let me delete this. Okay. And run our project to see our .vvm with ml.net example. Okay, our execution is here, and this is a little example, remember? As a first way, we need to write our text. We can write, for example, we really love .vvm framework, for example. And now predict these comments, and the result is positive with 96% of probabilities that this text is positive, a positive comments with our sentiments text analysis model with .vvm on ml.net. Now we can prove with another scenario. For example, I hate the box. Negative results with 86% of probabilities that this comment is negative. This is a single example or an easy example. Now we can prove with another scenario more complex that this demo. Other scenario that we can do is, for example, to predict or classify images, for example, in our times. See, for example, if one person have or don't have a face mask. For example, this is an other model that we can do, and we can take this opportunity to show this demo too. Okay, here we need to do the same process to create our machine learning model. Here in our principal project with .vvm, we can go to the section Add and add machine learning. In this case, our example is about image classification. Okay, and add. Here we can see again the model builder to create our model. In this case, our scenario is image classification to classify if a person have a mask or don't have. So in this case, the scenario is image classification. We can select that. And now prepare our environment. We can find several cases in this way. For example, use our local CPU, and also use, for example, if we have a graphical target, use, for example, a local GPU environment. For example, we can see the cards here. If we click check compatibility, we need to install some extensions in our Visual Studio. And also in other scenario, we can use, for example, Azure Machine Learning Workspace to process our data, in this case, the image files on Azure. In this case, we can use a local CPU with this, and in our next step, prepare our data set. Previously, we work with text dataset. In this case, is with image files, and in this case for image classifications, we need to have, for example, a sample folder, a fodder folder, and the childs. This is the labels, for example. In this case, for our case, is with mask or without mask. I have here an example, face mask classification, and the labels is with mask and without mask. We can select that, and in the data preview, we can see the labels. In this case, for example, peoples with mask, and in the other hand, people without mask. This is our data, and now we need to train our machine learning model. We can start training, and this process can take a little time to train the machine learning model. Okay, our training process is done. For example, in this section, we can see the code generated to consume our model. Now, as a next step, we need to evaluate our model to prove or test the precision. In this case, in Visual Studio, we can browse an image to prove our model. I have some pictures here. Okay, for example, this picture. Okay, without mask, 79% of probabilities on these images. One thing we need to take account in this case, that to the train process, we have 10 images for without mask and 10 other images without mask. And with this data set, we trained our model. So the results and the model is with a base of these data sets. So we can now try with another image. Let me select, for example, this other one, a picture with a mask. Okay, with a mask, 75%. Let me try with another image too. For example, this other one without with a mask. Okay, wow, with a mask, 100% of probabilities on this image. Let me try with another image too. For example, this image without mask. Okay, very nice results without mask, 99% of probabilities, and this is very well for our model. And then this is all from our site, because, for example, in this way we can find the options to generate project templates. Remember, for example, to create a console app or web API 2. And in our next steps, we can find the documentation of Microsoft, for example, to deploy our model on Azure and other scenarios too. So in this case, we can go to the code generated, in this case to image classification. In this section, for example, image classification consummation, and here we can find input model 2. In this case, for example, the label is with mask or without mask, and the image source to predict our image. And also we can recognize this section 2, for example, output class. In this, we can see the prediction. This is a string with a mask or without a mask, and the score to see the probabilities of this prediction, and also the method of predict to predict and model input in a particular way, and the results too. In the same case, we can generate a web page to send a file and predict this file. In this case, I have prepared this demo for reasons of time. Let me show you. Okay, in this case, the demo project is here. So I'm going to run this project first, and then I'm going to show you the code, in this case the view, and the view model to consume our image classification model. Okay, our demo is here. with styles and more beauty to see. For example, this is the other demo to sentiment analysis. In this case, we want to see the image classification process. Okay, in this way, we need to search the image. Okay, I will put that image. Okay, with mask is the result of this prediction with 78% of probabilities, and we can prove other image. For example, this other one, this image with mask. Okay, with mask too, 99% of probabilities that this image is a person with a mask. In another example, this other one, this image without mask, we can try it. Okay, the result is without mask with 81% of probabilities. Okay, this is the face mask classification demo, and now we can go to see the views and views models code. Okay, I have a face mask view model. Let me show you. In this case, the process, as you know, as you see, is, for example, upload a file and when classify and when predict this image. So in this case, we need to specify, for example, I upload file storage to storage our image, and also, for example, other attributes, results to show without mask or with mask, and the score to show the probabilities of the predict. Also, we can see the upload files collections. For what? In this case, to have a face mask view model here and specify upload files collection in our constructor, and also the main method in our particular case about predict method. For why? Upload path. This is, for example, to upload only one image and have the target path for when this target path specify in a model input on image classification. Then, with this sample data, a model input way, we can have our output bar, in this case, to predict our sample data. Then, as a same way as a sentiment analysis demo, we can prepare our results. For example, in this case, the result is a string. We can put in a directory way in this sentence output that prediction, and also we can specify the score, the probabilities on this section, and finally clear or refresh the files on our storage. Okay, this is about, for example, in our view model for the face mask, and also we can see the view in the section face mask. Okay, here we can comment two things. For example, to upload the file, we can use the .vvm control called file upload. In that, we can specify some attributes. For example, uploaded files, that is files that to reference to the files. Here we don't allow to have multiple files. In this way, we can specify that. And for example, in this case, to say message test, if the files are upload in the correct way, we can show a message predicting. And also, for example, the upload button text and allowed file types. And of course, upload completed, we can call the command predict and predict that image and show the results. The result is shown in this part. In this case, the results content with mask or without mask and the score. Okay, as you can see, work with ml.net with .vvm is very easy to do because the only thing we need to do that as a first point is to prepare our dataset, for example, sentiment analysis or image classification, to create our machine learning model, and then we can have the consummation process with .vvm when we're preparing our web application. In this case, this is the demo. And in this way, for example, we can have the sentiment analysis. Remember, we love.vvm and predict this text and have the result. In this case, positive with 99% of probabilities, and also the image classifications too, as we can see early. Now, as a plus, we can put this application, for example, for everyone, and in this case, we can use Azure. One thing we need to have in consideration is the resources we need. The resources to have or do a prediction, for example, sentiment analysis, don't require so much resources to predict because it's only a text. But about the image classification, this is to analyze an image with all our model. So this requires a lot of process. So in this case, I'm going to show you how to deploy web applications like this with .vvm to Azure in a few minutes. So we can do that and go to Azure. In this case, we can use a resource called Azure App Service to deploy our web applications. So I'm going to show you this little example. Here, the only thing we need to do is to create a new app service on this section. Let me do that. Okay, here in Azure App Service, we can, as another resource, specify our Azure subscription and also a resource group to group our resources. In this case, I can put, for example, .vvm virtual conference. Okay. The name, I'm going to write .vvm virtual conference 2. Okay, it's available. And then we need to specify the runtime stack. That is the framework that we are working. In this case is .NET. In our particular case is .NET 5. Now, if you can see, .NET 6 is now available in Azure App Service through early access. But in this case, our project is .NET 5. Now, the operating systems that our applications runs on that, and the regions too. And also our Azure App Service plan, I'm leaving this way, and also review and create our Azure App Service resource. Okay? I'm going to create that. This process takes a little few seconds. Okay. The process is done, as you can see, and now we can go to the resource. And in this section, the most significantly option is explore our application, for example, .vvm virtual conference.azurewebsites.net. Okay, Here we can find a hello world from Azure App Service, and it's time to take the next step and deploy your code. And that is we can do now. We can go back to our project in Visual Studio, and here in our principal project, ml.vvm project, we can click right and go to the option publish. Okay, we need to sync up with the same account that we used in Azure previously to create our Azure App Service resource. And here we can specify our Azure App Service. In this case, remember, we specify on a Windows machine. Next. We can also create our app service resource here on Visual Studio, but I take this opportunity to show you the process from the Azure portal. Next, we can identify the resource group, in this case .vvm virtual conference, and select our Azure App Service, .vvm virtual conference, finish, and that is the process. Now we can click on publish, and the process begins. Okay, our .vvm application with ml.net is here, as you can see, running from Azure and available for all of use to, for example, in this case, access to our sentiment analysis demo, and also image classification. And that is the way as we can deploy our .vvm applications, in this particular case with ml.net 2, on Azure App Service, as a bonus of this session. Hey, okay, that is for this session. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It's a whole pleasure to be able to participate in this type of spaces to exchange knowledge. In this particular case, to know how to work with machine learning projects with ml.net and take the opportunity from .vvm to generate our web applications and work with these environments, and also deploy these solutions to Azure through Azure App Service too. So I show you my social networks. If you have any comments, if you need help, or if you need some feedback in your projects, it would be a pleasure to be able to collaborate with you when you want. So thank you very much, everyone, to be here, and have a nice .vvm virtual conference. See you in the next occasion. Thank you. See you.